The lady yields back. The gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Lucas, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Director. As you know, the House will vote this week on a Congressional Review Act resolution of disapproval to the CFPB's rule on small business lending, led by my colleague, Chairman Roger Williams. The Senate has already passed this resolution, which required a bipartisan vote. And while Congress is working to rescind the final rule, it seems this may be decided ultimately by the courts. In the meantime, I'd like to focus on one aspect of the final rule that I'd appreciate clarification on. The Paperwork Reduction Act requires agencies to determine the total paperwork burden by hours of major rulemakings. This measures the time required to generate and provide the requested information of the rule. CFPB estimated the total annual burden hours imposed by this final rule to be 8,302,000. That's the equivalent of 947 years. Director Chopra, would you discuss how the CFPB balances the compliance burden with the value of the paperwork being produced? Because 8 million hours is a lot of time.
Yeah, so we try and analyze various ways to reduce the burden, and in the rule we actually provided different flexibilities. They don't have to use a particular form, but in this case, Congressman, we were under a court order to complete the rule. It was a statutory mandate, so we knew we had to do it, and we tried to look at various ways that firms could be able to use industry associations to help them collect it. So we always are looking at analyzing what kind of burden there is when thinking about how we ultimately implement.
But broadly speaking, Director, how can CFPB best maximize the utility and the quality of information received while minimizing, to the extent possible, the paperwork burden imposed on the American public?
Yeah, so we put a lot of thought into this, and I've had a discussion with a few of you. One of the reasons why these rules can often create a lot of burden is when they're excessively complex. And I think overall, we need to continue to shift to rules that are very bright line, that they're in or out, that we can reduce the amount of overall kind of thinking about how to actually deal with it. In some cases, it's hard. Congress may specify certain aspects that need to be done, but we are looking at simplification wherever we can.
I am by training a director and ag economist, and our main focus on making sure that we have enough food and fiber to meet our needs in this country and in this world. But economics by its nature is how do you allocate those finite resources among the unlimited demands to maximize the return. Is there a volume of reporting that outweighs the cost, I guess is what I'm asking. Just asking for every conceivable bit of information doesn't necessarily add to the quality of the result. Do you have economists? Do you have people who work on those calculations as opposed to just how much information can we squeeze out of people? But the value of it, again, the volume, when it outweighs the cost?
Yes, so we have an office of research where we have economists who help to look at all of this, and under the regulatory flexibility analysis that we're required to do, we talk through that. I will share though, in terms of putting value on the benefits, that also can sometimes be hard to give a benefit for a number to not being, illegally discriminated against, or, put in a loan that was unlawful. So we try our best, but I won't say that it's the easiest thing always. But we put a lot of rigor into what we're doing.
Director, that with the vote in the United States Senate and the efforts of Chairman Williams here in the House, Congress is going to send a very clear signal to you about how to address these issues. And I hope that the agency will be responsive. But we shouldn't make the best job guarantee in the history of the world being a compliance officer at some financial institution, and that appears to be what we've done, is provided job security for the folks who deal with these 8 million hours of paperwork, and I'm not sure that adds to the quality of life of my constituents. And with that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from